me go quickly and make 3 points, if I am allowed. First one, on the general comment on the spillovers, benefits or not from the TTIP. And on that, I simply would say that, in my view, no company, no country can have a free ride out of any free trade agreement or any free trade pact, including the TTIP. Why? Because free trade, it is Mexico's conviction and mine, is extremely successful and extremely positive, and I explain why. But for that to happen, countries or companies have to be prepared, it depends on their own economies, it depends on their degree of competitiveness, it depends on how much they are prepared to do and to sacrifice to make sure that they can actually profit from these instruments. And that's, as I will explain later, Mexico is a good example. Second point. Yes, Mexico is a country with long experience on free trade and is perhaps one of the best examples of why free trade is a good thing. Let me give you 2 or 3 figures that might illustrate why. We negotiated NAFTA with the United States 20 years ago. When it was going to be negotiated, upon a proposal, by the way, from the Mexican government, to then President Bush, father, was that every analyst, the media, columnists, experts say Mexico is going to be the biggest loser out of this pact. Mexico is a developing country, border country, negotiating free trade with the most richest, biggest economy in the world. The net result for Mexico is that Mexico is going to be flooded with American goods, manufactured goods. And if any, Mexico can aspire to sell more commodities. At the time, Mexico's trade was in the region of $80 billion a year. Out of which, let's say, 40 billion were exports, 50 billion were imports, 40 billion were imports, and in this, out of these 40 billion of exports, 90%, 85% were commodities exports. That was it. That was Mexico's trade. We entered NAFTA. It was not only, of course, a complex negotiation, but more than that, it was a very complex, very painful process for Mexico. Because negotiating free trade for Mexico was not only about to lowering tariffs, opening the border, it was about modernizing Mexico. It was about modernizing our systems, it was about modernizing our institutions, and it was about to creating competitiveness in the country. We were not competitive at the time. Mexican companies were highly pampered companies because Mexico was a totally protectionist country before NAFTA. What is the net result of that 20 years later? Well, the net result of that 20 years later is that the figure of $80 billion a year in total trade is today $800 billion a year of trade. The $40 billion of Mexican exports at the time, 85–90% of which were commodities, went up to today $400 billion in annual exports of Mexico, 80% of which are manufactured goods. So today, Mexico is the 10th largest exporter in the world. We export, or Mexican exports account to 70% of the total manufactured exports of Latin America combined. This is precisely the result of entering not only a policy of free trade, but almost making free trade as part of Mexico's DNA. And since then, we have today, up to today, free trade with over 50 countries. And Mexico became, and I'm not bragging, the figures are there, a true manufacturing powerhouse globally.